I always knew my family saw me differently, but I never expected the truth to be delivered with the gentleness of a hammer. For most of my life, I played the role of the easygoing daughter, the one who didn't complain, who absorbed comments like a sponge, who stayed quiet to keep the peace. My sister Elise was the radiant one, the golden child who shone bright enough for the rest of us. Or maybe she only looked radiant because I was always placed in her shadow. When Elise announced her engagement, I was genuinely thrilled for her. She had always dreamed of a big, beautiful wedding, complete with an aisle covered in rose petals and a string quartet playing her favorite classical pieces. Our parents nearly levitated with joy, planning themes and color palettes before she even finished telling us the proposal story. I watched them fuss over her with the loving intensity of people who had waited for this moment their entire lives. The night she told us the actual wedding date, my parents invited us over for dinner. The table was set with Mom's best china, the kind reserved for holidays or moments she deemed life milestones. She cooked Elise's favorite dishes, rosemary chicken, garlic mashed potatoes, and lemon bars for dessert. I noticed there was no favorite dish made for me, a small detail, harmless on its own, but sharp when added to the pattern. We had just finished clinking glasses in celebration when my mother cleared her throat, her expression shifting carefully into something rehearsed. "Sweetie," she said, turning toward me with a smile far too tight to be sincere, "we need to talk about your appearance." My stomach dropped. What about my appearance? My father folded his hands like he was about to deliver tragic news from a doctor. "You've gained some weight," he stated plainly, a noticeable amount. I waited for the follow-up, maybe a joke, some reassurance, anything. But the silence stretched uncomfortably long. Mom leaned in, lowering her voice as if this were a secret intervention. "The wedding photos will last forever, honey, and I know you want to look good in them." She paused, then added with a softness that felt like poison, "We all do." I stared at her, stunned. "Are you saying I can't be in Elise's wedding pictures unless I lose weight?" Elise shifted in her seat, eyes locked on the tablecloth, not a word passing her lips. Dad sighed like I was making things difficult. "We're not saying you can't be in them. We're saying you should try. 25 pounds, 8 weeks will help you." That number 25 hit me like a slap. It wasn't a gentle suggestion. It was an ultimatum disguised as concern. My mother quickly added, "It's only because we care about you. We don't want you to feel insecure standing next to the bridesmaids. They're all very fit girls, you know." So the truth finally revealed itself. They weren't worried about my insecurity. They were worried about their pictures. The betrayal landed quietly, not dramatic, not explosive, just a sinking heaviness in my chest, the kind that makes you suddenly aware of every inch of your body, how you're sitting, how you're breathing, how much space you take up. I forced a smile because that was my role. I'll think about it. But inside something cracked, not loudly, not visibly, just enough for the foundation to shift, and once something shifts, it never quite goes back. The first week after the wait ultimatum passed in a blur of forced positivity and quiet misery. My parents called it support, but it felt more like surveillance. Mom texted me every morning as if she were clocking in for a shift. "Good morning. Did you weigh yourself yet? Don't forget discipline is everything." Dad sent me links to diet blogs written by people who believed lettuce was a personality trait. Annalise, well, she simply avoided the topic altogether. At first I tried, truly. I woke up early to jog, even though my lungs felt like they were filled with cement. I choked down salads so bland they tasted like wet paper. I monitored every calorie, every bite, every moment of hunger like it was a sin. I lost a few pounds, but instead of feeling proud, I felt hollow. Like I'd given up more than food. My mother was thrilled with my progress. She even suggested weekly weigh-ins at their house so she could keep me accountable. I wanted to say no, but the ghosts of childhood obedience still clung to me. So I stepped on the scale every Sunday, while she hovered over me like a disappointed coach. One Sunday, I stepped on the scale, and the number hadn't changed. My body had reached its limit. My mother stared at the number as if it personally offended her. She hummed, her lips tightening. "Are you sure you're sticking to the plan? Maybe you miscounted calories. It's easy to mess up. I swallowed anger like a stone. I'm doing my best. She shook her head. You're not trying hard enough. Not for something this important. Important. Not my health, not my happiness, her photos. That night I called Elise, hoping my sister, the girl who shared my childhood secrets, would understand. Do you really want me to lose all this weight? I asked gently. There was a long silence. It's just Mom is really stressed, she finally said. And the bridesmaids' dresses are all very fitted. I don't want anyone to feel out of place. Anyone. Meaning me, so you agree with her? I asked. I just want everything to look perfect. Her words were soft but sharp. A tiny slice across my heart. As the wedding grew closer, the pressure escalated. My parents began offering unsolicited advice everywhere. At dinner, over the phone, even through text. My father once told me, "You look puffier today." And I had to lock myself in the bathroom to cry silently. But the final crack, the breaking point, came on an ordinary afternoon. I arrived at my parents' house to pick up a set of old family photos my mother said she wanted me to have. As I stepped inside, I heard voices in the dining room. I wasn't trying to snoop. I simply froze when I heard my name. She's just so big, my mother said with a sigh heavy enough to bend the air. I told Elise we might need to angle her in the photos. We can't have her front and center. My father replied, I know, it's embarrassing. She should have taken this seriously. My heart stopped. Embarrassing, that was the word. That was what I was to them. Elise whispered something about not wanting to hurt my feelings, and Mom replied irritably, You're the bride. You shouldn't worry about your sister ruining your pictures. The words sliced through me so swiftly that for a moment I couldn't breathe. I stepped back quietly, afraid they'd hear the sound of my heart breaking. I didn't confront them. I didn't scream or cry. I simply walked out the door, and as I got into my car, hands trembling, something inside me settled quiet and certain. I would not stand beside people who were ashamed of me. The wedding would happen without me. They just didn't know it yet. I didn't make the decision to skip the wedding impulsively. It wasn't born from rage or spite. It rose slowly, like sunlight creeping over a dark horizon. After hearing my family talk about me like I was some uninvited burden, something inside me shifted permanently. The version of me who would shrink herself to please them quietly faded. A new part of me, a braver, fiercer part, stepped forward. 2 days after overhearing their conversation, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, staring at my savings account. I had always saved responsibly, preparing for real emergencies, but this was an emergency, maybe not the kind you could explain to a bank, but absolutely the kind that justified rescue. With a deep breath, I opened new tabs: cabins, resorts, spa packages, photography services. I compared prices, read reviews, looked at photos of mountain views so breathtaking they felt unreal. My heart thumped not with fear but with anticipation. Freedom tasted like wild air. By the time I went to bed, $3,900 was gone. And I had purchased my escape, a 3-night mountain retreat in a private cabin with a hot tub on the wooden deck. A massage and facial at a luxury spa. Breakfast delivered to my door every morning. And extravagantly, but necessarily, a personal photo shoot with a local photographer known for capturing people in their real, unfiltered beauty. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt excited for something that belonged only to me. The morning of the wedding, I woke before the sun, heart pounding with adrenaline. Today was the day. While my parents likely assumed I was nervously getting ready, squeezing myself into a dress that slimmed me down, I was tossing a duffel bag into my car. I turned off my phone before even leaving the driveway. The drive to the mountains was quiet, almost surreal. As the roads wound upward, the scenery transformed from city noise to towering trees and golden sunlight dappling through leaves. It felt like the world was inhaling for me, reminding me I had lungs capable of breathing, air not saturated with judgment. My cabin was everything the photos promised. Warm wood walls, soft blankets draped over a plush couch, a window view framing mountains like a painting. But the deck with the hot tub was the crown jewel. Steam curled into the cool morning air, welcoming me like open arms. I slipped into the hot tub and let the water cradle me. The sun was barely rising, and the sky was streaked with pink and gold. For the first time in ages, I felt weightless not because of numbers on a scale, but because no one here expected me to be anything other than myself. Around noon, my phone, which I briefly turned on out of curiosity, exploded with messages from Mom, "Where are you?" "The stylist is waiting," from Dad, "This is irresponsible, call us back now," from Elise, "Are you okay?" "Please say something." I stared at the screen for a moment, then turned it off again, and just like that, silence returned. Beautiful, healing silence. The photographer arrived in the late afternoon. Her energy was warm, almost comforting. She led me through fields of tall grass behind the cabin, capturing me laughing, turning, looking at the sky. She didn't pose me to look smaller. She didn't angle me to hide anything. She simply said, "Be yourself." I didn't realize until then how long it had been since someone allowed me that. When the session ended, she showed me a few previews. There I was, joyful, serene, alive, not an embarrassment, not a flaw to be hidden, just me. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, I settled into bed with a full heart. Today was my sweet revenge, not loud, not cruel, just peaceful, and that made it perfect. The silence didn't last forever, of course. The morning after I returned home from my retreat, my parents were waiting for me. The house was tense, the air thick with the kind of quiet that signals a storm. I felt it before I even stepped through the door, a familiar weight pressing down on my shoulders. Like the world was reminding me I had failed them in some way. They didn't greet me with a hug or a smile. They stood in the kitchen, arms crossed, eyes narrow, the very image of disappointment. My mother was the first to speak, her voice tight with frustration. "We've been trying to reach you," she said, her tone more accusatory than concerned. "Do you have any idea what you've done? We told you how important this wedding was. You didn't show up, you didn't even call." I took a deep breath, holding steady. I didn't show up because I wasn't going to participate in something that treated me like a problem. Her face flushed red, her lips trembling with a mixture of anger and hurt. "You're making this about yourself, you embarrassed us. This was supposed to be the happiest day of Elise's life, and instead it became about my body." I shot back, my voice steady, though the words stung. "You wanted me to lose 25 pounds in 8 weeks, Mom. You didn't want me to be there because of who I am. You wanted me to be something different." My father's jaw clenched, and he stepped forward. "That's not what we meant. We just wanted you to be your best for your sister." "No," I said quietly. "You wanted me to be your version of acceptable. Your best wasn't enough, so you pushed me to change myself until I wasn't even me anymore." They stared at me in stunned silence, as though hearing those words was like an unexpected punch to the gut. Maybe they had never realized the effect their words had on me until now. It was hard to say, but it didn't matter. "I don't want to be your acceptable version anymore," I continued, my voice stronger now. "I won't shrink myself to make you feel better. You may have tried to change me, but you can't take away my ability to choose for myself." Elise had been conspicuously absent, not even in the kitchen to back up her parents. She finally appeared at the top of the stairs, her face drawn tight. She looked like she was caught in the middle of a tug-of-war, but when her eyes met mine, something shifted. She took a step down and slowly approached me. "I didn't know, you know," she whispered, guilt spilling from her every word. "I never meant to make you feel this way. I didn't know how to stand up to them." "I know," I said softly. "But now I need you to stand up for me, not just for them, for me." Elise nodded, her eyes welling up. "I'm sorry," I nodded back, not sure what else to say. The apology wasn't a fix, but it was a start. The aftermath wasn't as explosive as I had expected. My parents, though still upset, didn't push the issue further. Maybe they were ashamed. Maybe they were just tired of fighting. Elise and I didn't immediately go back to being best friends, but things began to settle. There was an understanding between us now, even if it wasn't always vocalized. I could tell that she regretted her silence during those crucial moments, and I realized I couldn't force her to make it right. She had to find her own way to do that. As for my parents, the lines between us shifted permanently. I didn't cut them out of my life, but I started to define my boundaries. I stopped waiting for their approval, stopped letting their expectations mold my worth. That day at the cabin, the one where I learned to be myself again, was the beginning of something new. The woman who had once cried over unsolicited weight loss advice no longer existed. Instead, I was becoming someone who had learned to protect her peace, someone who understood that no one's version of love should ever come at the expense of self-worth. And when I looked at the photos the photographer had captured, there I was, smiling with my full body and my full heart. I knew that missing the wedding wasn't a loss. It was the most liberating thing I could have done. I wasn't just free from my parents' expectations. I was free to be me, and that was enough.